guys, it's Lavetta.
And it's Miriam.
And this is the Notorious Women Podcast, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women.
Yes, yes.
Back again. This is coming out on the 4th of July.
That's right. Let's celebrate.
America's birthday. Woo, 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 woo.
Should we talk about how it's birthday because of colonialism and the total destruction of several different peoples, or just fireworks?
Well, unfortunately, that ship has sailed. Pun intended. And yeah, we just have to do the best we can moving forward, right?
It is a weird combination of feelings that I have on the 4th of July of like, okay, colonialism, okay, destruction of peoples. But I love like a burger and a pool, and like fireworks are so pretty. I know.
Yeah. I mean, hamburger hanging out and, because no matter where you live, every nation on the planet now is problematic or have been problematic.
That's true. That is true. So you might as well have a hot dog.
Yeah. It's like, it's like you can still be proud to be an American and proud of your nation and also been like, we need to do better. We need to do better. We have a history of, and as a Black person and as a Jewish person, we know that we have a very complicated history with America.
Yeah.
But the more you learn about other countries and other nations, like they're all problematic. I love Japanese culture, right?
Yeah, you do.
Love Japanese culture. The Japanese was trying to conquer everybody and just went into China and Korea and just wreaking havoc all over Southeast Asia, East Asia.
As a Jewish person, when you learned about World War II, there were two major Axis powers. There was one that wasn't Germany, and that was Japan. So, listen, I love sushi, and I'm like, and that's the weird thing is most of the world in most countries, which is why we do what we do. And I love it that we're in podcast form so we can go to every country, is that most of the people are good people. So we're talking about countries where their laws are not so great, where the culture encourages things that are like less than ideal.
Yeah, and we're talking about the people and not necessarily the nation itself. I'm watching Star Trek Discovery because, yes, I'm a Trekkie. Mm-hmm. And something happens in it where I'm total nerd. I love it's so good. I love it. Where they get into the politics more. I feel like this is like sort of the first kind of Star Trek. I can't remember Deep Space Nine that much, but I don't think they got into it. But they're getting more into like the politics of governing as well, which is really, really interesting because when you're older, you understand like politics are everywhere in the home, at the workforce. Like, it's like everywhere, like in the PTA. It's everywhere. So not to make excuses for it, but this is, that is why I can only speak to the Black experience. That is why also this is our nation. This is our home. And because of the work that a lot of that Black people, that immigrant people, that poor people have done in this country is the reason why the country is socially as advanced as it is. And because we've been pushing for union rights, social programs to help the poor, education,
because
inclusion.
The inequalities were so obvious. Yeah. It was like, fuck the poor. Thank you, Mel Brooks. It was basically like how our country came to be. And finally the poor people were like, no, fuck you. And then, we got some rights.
Because also the way our government is set up, it's like the poor people outnumber y'all. Like, and they know that. It's like, I always remember, I love the French. The French are like, oh, these royals got to go. Let's cut off some motherfucking heads. Don't fuck with the French. They got the guillotine. Don't fuck with the French. I mean, listen. So, but on that note, before we get started, I want to read a few more of our 5-star reviews on the Apple in the Apple Store, on the Apple platform. Guys, please, if you like our little podcast, We would really appreciate it if you would go over to the Apple platform and Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. It really, really helps people find our show.
Yes.
Hopefully we can get up into some lists so people can find us and just get more viewers, because we're trying to build the audience. We love the ones that we have. We love the listeners that we have, but we'd like to get a few more. So if you could do that, that would be great. So this week I'm going to read from Amers 8. The title is Educational, Witty, and Fun. And Amers 8 goes on to say, love the chemistry and banter between the hosts and really enjoyed learning about all those notorious women out there. Thank you, Amers 8.
Thank you.
Also want to, we have Leah.Lewis. She says, intellectually funny is the headline. Really enjoy listening to these two ladies. I love their chemistry and brutal honesty. Not only is this podcast hilarious, but it is also very enlightening. Excuse me. Thank you, Leah.
That
Lewis.
makes me feel like I'm really smart. I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah. And a couple more here. So we also have Fleur de la Mer. Speaking of French. Okay, my French is terrible. My French pronunciation is terrible.
It is. No, I'm not going to argue you. You're correct. Go on.
Fleur de la Mer says the headline is so good. And it says informative, fun, and ridiculously funny. And it's got like the kissy emoji, kissy heart emoji. Thank you so much. And we also have one here. Let's see. Romanita. 1, 2, 3. Or did I read Romanita? I feel like I read Romanita. So let me find. Oh,
I don't have brain cells.
Insta fan also says title is Love the Vibe and quote, it's the theme song for me. Laughing emoji. Thank you.
I love our theme song.
Thank you so much. I think our theme song is really, really funny too. So, and fun. But without any further ado, let's get into our actual ladies this week. This week, my friend, you are first. So who is your notorious woman that you're sharing with me this week?
Okay. So I was like, okay, this episode comes out on the 4th of July. And so I need to do something. And you're looking at me like I thought the same thing. So I wonder if we pick the same woman, which is not impossible. Well, we haven't done yet, but it's not impossible. Did you pick the woman named Sybil Luddington?
No, I did not.
Perfect.
Sybil Luddington. Oh, okay.
Listen, I'm going to preface this that when I found her, I was like, yes. But then if you look at Wikipedia is like, I mean, I don't know if this really happened. I mean, did it? We can't really prove it. Hashtag not historians. I got it on a couple of websites I forgot to even write down to tell you. Okay.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you the story, and I'm going to guess that this really did happen, because if you look at all of history that was written down, and if you look at the people who wrote down all of history, they were white men who loved white men. They really thought white men were the best. And they were like, their favorite stories were all about white men, white menning. But this was a white woman, so maybe she just didn't make the cut when they were writing things down.
Maybe.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah.
But her existence is definitely real, and she definitely played a part. So I'm going to tell you the story.
Okay.
So she was born on April 5th, 1761 in Fredericksburg, New York. Her parents were Abigail and Henry. Henry was a grist mill owner. Don't ask me what a grist mill is. No, because I don't know. It's a mill that grists. I don't know. It's a 1700s problem, not mine. Okay. So according to his relatives, the father fought in the French and Indian War, and he volunteered to head the local militia during the Revolutionary War. Now, on the night, and she was like born, and she has siblings. I don't know much.
Sorry. Wait a minute. What? On the night she was born, she had siblings. So you don't know the day or you don't know the year?
I don't know how many siblings she had. She was the oldest.
Okay.
And she had several. I think like 12.
Yeah. It's Colonial. America.
Colonial
so,
shit, right?
Yeah,
There was no
yeah.
birth control yet. Her poor mother.
Yeah. Oh,
Let's send her a card and a vacation. Okay.
Yeah.
So, April 26th, 1777, Colonel Henry Luddington, her dad, he commanded the militia in Dutchess County, New York. Dutchess County is like upstate of New York City.
Okay.
Real close to Connecticut.
Okay.
He received a messenger to his house that the British had entered Danbury, which is in Connecticut, and found some American military stores, stolen some, and destroyed others, and drank the whiskey. Whilst drunk, they then ransacked the town, burning and looting. That feels right. That feels right.
That sounds like what the Redcoats were doing. Yeah.
So his militia, which was about 400 men, were currently on furlough, meaning they had off. They were taken off. Right. That's a military term.
Okay.
I know this because I have one military friend, so it makes me smart. Okay. So we don't know if he went to his oldest daughter and said, I need your help, or she was like, he needs my help. But Sybil, at the age of 16, at 9 p.m., set off in the rain to warn the men who were on furlough, so they were not ready for an attack. So she completed her mission around daybreak. She covered nearly 40 miles, which was more than twice what Paul Revere had ridden, raising the 400 men. She even fought off a highwayman with her father's musket. The militia caught up with the retreating British and beat them back. They were too late to stop the attack, but not too late to make them pay for their bullshit. Okay. Now, we have on record Alexander Hamilton, who wrote to Colonel Luddington. And remember, if you have memorized the Hamilton musical like I have, you will know that Hamilton did write everything down.
And
he wrote
that
the
is
other
about
52.
And that is about, what, 5 minutes you made it before you mentioned Hamilton in Colonial America?
Yeah. And that's a record for me.
I'm just teasing you. Love
Alexander Hamilton. Sorry. The troops
what
are
did
waiting.
I miss? What did I
miss?
That's my favorite.
Gotta give me a kiss. Stop it, Miriam. Okay. So he wrote to the colonel. He said, quote, I congratulate you on the Danbury expedition. The stores destroyed have been purchased at a pretty high price to the enemy. Sybil received personal thanks from George Washington, who we find problematic, but we know that he was our first president and a pretty good general.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
General Rochambeau works well in rap. Okay, stop it, Miriam. Who was the French commander fighting with the Americans. And Colonel Henry Luddington's memoir says, quote, one who even now rides from Carmel to Cold Spring, these are all New York State places, will find rugged and dangerous roads with lonely stretches. Imagination only can picture what it was a century and a quarter ago on a dark night with reckless bands of, this is a quote, cowboys, and the word that he used is skinners. Okay, I didn't use that word because I would not use that word. But we all know what it means.
Yeah, it's 1770s. Yeah, language.
Asshole white man, gonna asshole, right? Abroad in the land. But the child performed her task, clinging to a man's saddle and guiding her steed with only a hempen halter, I don't know what that is, as she rode through the night, bearing the news of the sack of Danbury. There is no extravagance in comparing her ride with that of Paul Revere and its midnight message, nor was her errand less efficient than his. By daybreak, thanks to her daring, nearly the whole regiment was mustered before her father's house at Fredericksburg. So, a 2022 Smithsonian Magazine article written by Abigail Tucker states that the earliest known record of the 1777 account of her ride came in 1854 from her nephew, Charles H. Luddington. He was looking to have his aunt, Sybil, recognized as a hero. She was included in an 1880 book about the New York City area by local historian Martha Lamb. And a brief later reference appeared in the 1907 memoirs written by Willis Fletcher Johnson about Sybil's father and published privately by his grandchildren. So
interesting, because it's like, yeah, like what she did was more impressive than Paul Revere, but maybe that's why they didn't want to talk about her, because it made the man look not as great. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
that's probably almost 99.9% probably what happened. Yeah.
Like, it would negate Paul Revere.
Yeah.
As Paul Revere, you know.
Right.
Actually, my child did a project on Paul Revere.
Of course.
He should have.
But it doesn't mean why. I mean, now we know that they're both are pretty. They both can be celebrated.
They are both the prettiest girls at the ball. Calm down, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that when she was 23, in 1784, she married a man named Edmund Ogden, and they had a son named Henry in 1786. And then they settled in 1792 in Catskill. I don't know if that's like the Catskills. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Probably.
And then her husband died in 1799. Now, some of the argument against the story is the following. So in 1838, so he dies in 1799. In 1838, so that's 39 years later.
39 years, yeah.
She asked for a pension based on her husband having fought in the Revolutionary War, but she couldn't prove that she was married to him. Okay, now listen, as someone who had to prove that I was married to someone recently, I don't think she wasn't married to him. I think she lost the paper.
Yeah, I was going to say, but also she seems to have come from a pretty well-off family, or a family of note. So the fact that but I guess because it's so far afterwards, of course she lost the paperwork.
40 years later.
Of course she lost the paperwork.
So it's Paula Hunt, who wrote in the New England Quarterly Journal, says, quote, none of the sworn affidavits attesting to Henry Ogden's military service and the legitimacy of Sybil's marriage mentioned her ride, nor did she attempt to claim it as justification for a pension. Now, let's talk about this. Why would a woman in that day then use what she did as justification to receive her own pension in the war? Women were not in the war.
Yeah,
women did not fight for the war.
That would never occur to her. It just would never occur to her.
She should. She did.
Yeah, that's a modern lens. It would never occur to Sybil to say that. But I'm just so confused by like, okay, so she's a woman from a family of note, right? Of course she got married. That's just...
Of course she got married before she had her baby.
So I don't know. It sounds like there's something missing, like maybe all the people that her father knew, or they weren't around anymore, so they couldn't attest, because I would imagine they have a social circle,
this is
right?
40 years later. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wonder what was going on.
That social circle that gave her that sort of clout probably somewhat disappeared. Right?
Maybe that's what it is, because she definitely lost the paperwork. There's no way she kept the paperwork, but you would then rely on like your social surrounding. It's kind of like you need and back then you needed other people to vouch for you. Right. So maybe they had all died away because it took her a while to apply for it. So maybe the family's fortune changed in that time too.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
She just, but of course she was married.
Of course she was married. Of course she did the riding of the horse hero thing, because she was raised in this world of riding horses and having a musket, and and
honestly, I don't think she would have qualified under their guidelines for a war, like a wartime pension, because technically she was not in the military. So
she did one thing in her brain for her father needed happening, needed to be done. So she went and did it, just like women have been doing without getting credit forever. Okay.
That part.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
But that's so weird that they wouldn't honor that, especially the Revolutionary War. Like they're all about that.
Right?
Wow.
Man, they're still all about that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but they forget about that. It's so interesting. Yeah, we're all about it now, but so interesting. Like what? So this is what, 1838?
1838, yeah.
So technically it was well, we say 1776, but it was really 1781, right?
Yeah.
So we are like almost 60 something years, 50 something years later. I wonder how much of that, like, you know, that America like is left, because people are living in the real world, like,
right. This, and now it's America. What are you gonna do about it? Exactly.
Yeah.
So she died in at right before her 78th birthday. Lived a long life for
for that time. Yeah, but
days before you washed your hands.
Was she not able to get the pension?
I have no idea.
Damn it, that pisses me off more than anything. Like,
but I think she was I mean, she died. So like, if she got, I mean, she died like a year later, not even. So.
Oh, yeah. And maybe, you know what? Maybe that's why she never bothered to go to ask for the pension, because she didn't really need it.
Yeah.
And then when she asked for it,
she needed it more because maybe she was sickly, maybe she needed help.
Yeah.
She needed more money.
Or maybe she was talking to like a friend or a neighbor, and they were like, well, aren't you getting your widow's pension? Like, and she's like, what? And they're like, yeah, go and apply for it. And then unfortunately, when you need it, that's when you can't get it, or they slow it down until you die.
Because they're assholes. What? How do we feel? We feel
Sybil.
like they're assholes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But she did live a long life. She's buried near her father in Paterson, New York. And that is what I was able to find about her.
She's not buried near her husband?
No, she's not. But listen, he died in 1799 and she died in 1839.
True. So she may have also moved back to be near her family. They could have been that kind of thing.
Might not have liked her husband very much.
Well, there's that. Yeah. Because now we can choose our mates. Well, hopefully we can choose our mates.
Or you could do more than go on 6 dates with them before you decide to marry them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You never know. But Sybil. Oh, and how do you spell her last name? Luddington?
Luddington. There is nothing more British. Ludington.
Yeah, Luddington. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So my Notorious Woman, in honor of July 4th as well.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to this, around this time, colonial period. And I was like, what can I do in America? I was looking for a murderess. I could not find one. I'm sure there were plenty, but they were just not being reported on, because women are better at killing than men.
Yeah, they are.
So, but my Notorious Woman, I found somebody who's very, very interesting. She's a bit of a scammer. Like a scammer here.
Love a scammer.
A colonial times scammer by the name of Sarah Wilson.
Okay.
I love it, right?
Tell me more. Okay. I'm so excited.
So Sarah Wilson was said, again, it's colonial times. Its records are not the best, but she was said to have been born in a village in Staffordshire in the West Midlands in England in 1754.
Yes.
And it said she was the daughter of a bailiff, of course, because it's the time it is. I don't know anything about her mother, because,
she's a woman, right? Okay, forget it.
A woman.
Yeah.
So she's presumed to have spent basically her childhood in the village of her birth, so in Staffordshire.
Okay.
But at the age of 16, she left for London to seek employment and possibly fortune. So she was a girl of like humble background, but she had stars in her eyes of hitting the big time, of maybe catching the eye of some man and marrying, because that's what women had to do back then.
Yep.
To go up in society. In England, even today, England, that's one of the things that we forget about America. America is a society where you can change your status, your class status, in one generation.
Yeah.
Like, either up or down, and you're not stigmatized. And in fact, in America, and that is one thing I do love about being American, like in America, it's like considered a good thing. Like if you came from humble beginnings and you managed to find success, get educated or get a career, like that's actually like people are more impressed than if you come from money and do well. Because people are like, well, of course you're going to do well because you come from money. Like, you know.
Right. Like that's not impressive.
Yeah. Growing up, like rich kids sometimes would like hide the fact that they were that rich, you know, like because they were like.
I've seen it in America. You see it a lot.
In America, we're not impressed because you're rich and you are successful. It's like, well, duh. So we're much more like, you know, it feeds into that sort of bootstrap thing, but it's like a positive thing to come from humble beginnings and even just move from poverty to middle class. Like that's a positive thing.
In the series, The Gilded Age, which both you and I love to watch, because like the woman who like was the help downstairs is now going to the balls, and they're like, what the fuck? And they're like, it's America. And that's
America. Right. Yeah. And so, by the way, Felicia Rashad is joining the Gilded Age next season. So
I'm so ready. Let's go.
So ready. Yeah, let's go. I can't wait. So, but in England, not so much. You know, their class system is very structured, and it's there for a reason, to keep people in their place. So, but Sarah's like, nah. I'm not about that life. I'm going to get mine. Okay. Mm-hmm. So she leaves a small village and she goes to London, which is the big city. And again, she has high aspirations. So she reportedly began scamming, running little schemes and pretending to be other people around London. So whether it was an attempt to, so for instance, in and around 1762. So she's born, they think, 1754. So when she's like a young woman around 1762 or 1763, while still in her teens, one newspaper later reported that she began 9. At this time. So again, in or around.
Ah, okay. Got it. So right. People didn't write things down.
Yeah.
Most people were illiterate.
1744, probably 1744. Yeah, like she was a young woman. So I would say probably anywhere from 16 to 20, probably around this age. So she's in London. And one newspaper said that when she arrived in London, she began her career wandering around England and the city, imposing on the compassion of different people in town and in the country. So maybe that's how she made her way from the country, just imposing. It kind of reminds me of our very first lady in our on our show, who pretended to be like from a foreign country. She just sort of showed up.
You're reminding me of her so much.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's hard if you're not part of the aristocracy of the upper crust. It's life's fucking sucks in England.
Yes.
So, So she's
time.
just like, well, let me pretend, sort of like, because she wants to be. So she's like, basically pretending to be these people, the upper crust, like from a higher class, which is really frowned upon in English society, even a little bit today. So, no, go ahead.
No, I said, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
No, I
so
agree.
Either she decided to, like, it wasn't really working, she needed some place more steady, or she decided to play the long game. She somehow landed a job as a maid to Caroline Vernon, a lady in waiting to Queen Charlotte.
Oh my God.
The wife of King George.
Stop. Okay. I'm excited because of Bridgerton. I'll say it. Did y'all watch Queen Charlotte? I'm talking it's so good. It's so like some of the most iconic scenes from like the Bridgerton journey we're all on happen on that show. I'm digressing a lot, but I'm so excited.
So Sarah manages to become a maid to the lady in waiting to the queen. So she's not even a lady in waiting. Yeah, because lady in waiting usually went to another person in the aristocracy. So it sounds like it's just a maid, but that's a high position at the court, lady in waiting, especially to the queen. Yeah.
Listen, she's in the room with the queen. Okay.
Damn. So Sarah becomes the maid to Caroline. So as Caroline's servant, she had many opportunities to be in the room where it happened with the queen herself. And she quickly learned about the life at the English court. as well as the private lives of the other royals. So she's in with the creme de la creme. So she's moved on up. She moved on up. So eventually it's reported that Sarah took advantage of her position to enrich herself. So one day while she was alone in the queen's closet,
oh God,
she broke open the cabinet and stole some jewelry.
Girl.
Several rings, a miniature portrait of the queen, and one of the queen's dresses.
Stop.
Yes. So we don't know. Yep. People don't know the exact reason. I'm like, money.
Money. Yeah, I know the reason. But that's
what Cardi B say? All a bad bitch need is money.
Yeah.
So Sarah's like, I'm a bad bitch and I'm about to get this money.
That's right. She's like, I'm just going to take it.
So, some reports are like, oh, she's a thief, or like she's speculating that she was envious of the luxuries. It's like, no, it's not envious. She's like, I want some of these for myself. So
she was really poor and didn't want to be really poor, because I don't know if you know this, but it sucks to be really poor. Maybe you didn't know that. It sucks to be poor.
Yeah. But, obviously these people reporting on this is this. And again, we're not encouraging people to steal. Do not do that.
No, don't do that.
But all I'm saying is Sarah was living that Cardi B life. All a bad bitch need is money. Okay. So she, because of the queen's enormous wealth, she figured the queen wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah, that's probably not true.
But what Sarah don't know is that rich people, really, really rich people, often know exactly what they have, even if they have a lot. It's usually that new money people that don't know. But
yeah, like if I came into a whole lot of money, you could steal from me all day. I wouldn't. Yeah, I would, because I wouldn't even remember that I was able to get it.
Yeah, maybe an older person who's see now, but no. So unfortunately for her, the queen did notice that some of her things were missing.
That sounds right.
As she had a habit of counting her valuables. See?
Oh, see.
So Queen Charlotte, I can imagine Queen Charlotte from Bridgerton.
Oh my God, right? Going through, what, where?
Like, where's my snuff case?
Where's my mini portrait of me?
Yes. Now, expecting the thief, so they've discovered that the theft has happened. So they knew, her and Caroline, her lady in waiting, were like, something's going to happen again. Because obviously there's like a thief in the court, like, right? In my surroundings. So she had her private closet watched. True enough, Sarah returned thinking she had gotten away with it. Several days later, she returned to steal from the same place and was caught red-handed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Girl, you don't steal from the same place. Listen, I'm not a thief, but if I were a thief, I think I'd be pretty good.
Yeah, you got to steal from another closet, girl. Like, you got to, But maybe that's the one thing that was valuable that she had access to.
That's true.
Supposedly. So now her sentence was death.
Jesus.
But this is 70-something England.
That's a tough time. Okay.
Yeah. Carolyn, her employer, her direct employer, jumped in her stead. Some people say that the queen intervened, but I feel like it's more accurate that Caroline, because it also looks bad on Caroline. Like she employed the thief.
It kind of does. It kind of does. Yeah. So
she instead, so they arrested her, sentenced her to death, and So Caroline stepped in and pleaded for clemency. So instead of being sentenced to death, she was sentenced to jail, to penal transportation to the American colonies.
Oh.
Yeah. In 1768. So it took a little time for her to be discovered and then to have the trial and So, and then it took even a little bit more time for her to actually make the journey. So according to an advertisement in October of 1771, so she's sentenced in 1768, 1768. And then in 1771, she actually left she was put on a prison ship that was bound for Baltimore, Maryland.
Damn. Okay.
When the ship arrived at its destination, she was sold to William Duval, sometimes spelled Deval, of Bush Creek, Fredericks County, Maryland, as a convict servant maid. Okay. So indentured servitude, basically. Yeah. She was sold into, as a servant. They would call it quote unquote white slavery, but at this time, both black and white people were slaves in America.
Right, you guys.
But this is why it changed from from that to mostly African slaves. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to get to it in just a moment. Because Sarah, so she was immediately sold, but she immediately escaped.
Right. That's not, I was waiting for that. Yep.
Because she's white.
She can hide. Yep.
And again, Sarah also can impersonate upper crust English people very well. So she escaped and immediately adopted the persona of Princess Susanna Caroline Matilda of Mecklenburg-Strelitz.
Shut the fuck up.
Basically, she said she was the sister. She said she was the sister of Queen Charlotte.
Oh my God. She just like made up a province, didn't she? I'm from Colonial.
She just was like, what, they don't know. They're in the colonies. Like, they don't know. She claimed that she was forced into exile in America as a consequence of a scandal and a family quarrel. Row, as the English would say. Somehow, Sarah was still in possession of some of the objects she had stolen from the Queen, including a dress, the miniature portrait, and a ring.
Damn.
This is some white privilege for you. But I also, in their defense, they don't expect women to behave this way. That's
true. That is true.
Like, and I'm sure she either kept it or it was just sort of like she told them she had sold the items when she went to prison, when she went to jail,
but she so still had like, because she was in jail for 3 years. Like, where was this stuff? She was keeping it.
It could have been hidden in her dress because they didn't search women the way they do now.
Okay, girl.
So because she had some of these items, it made her impersonation more convincing. Mm-hmm. So she traveled as, again, she named herself the princess.
This is my sister.
See? Now, the princess was invited to the home of various Virginian gentlemen because, and again, this is 1771. Mm-hmm. So they only most people have never seen the Queen in person. They've only seen portraits.
Right.
Yeah. Or the king. They've never seen them in person.
They see the portrait. Yeah. That's what the portrait is for.
Right. So she has this miniature one. So they're like, oh, well, she must be, because these people, when you're really, really rich now, people know about scammers. But back then, they would never even think that she was. Also, if like in
the portrait, Queen Charlotte had a little curl right here, she could just curl her hair right here too and be like, we look so much alike.
See? Yeah. Now, so she was invited to various upper crust people's homes, and because they were curious to meet a genuine royal.
Of course.
While others were hoping to obtain favors once she was restored to her rightful position in England.
Absolutely.
Nevertheless, she was beginning to have some suspicions around her mysterious the princess title, because for instance, most people are like, the princess belonged to German dynasty, which also Queen Charlotte.
Yes.
So she was expected to speak German, which she did not speak German.
Ich bin what? Ich bin don't know.
Now, so they were like, say some German. And she's like, oh, it's so like traumatic. But she didn't know any German, so she couldn't fake that. So some people also were like, huh, I've never heard that Queen Charlotte had a little sister. What? So people are like, especially because she ain't got no money. Now, if she had some money other than these possessions, she could probably draw this out a little bit longer.
How is she affording her life right now?
Because she's a wonderful scammer. Again, she's a woman, so she's also depending on she's basically imposing on their kindness and their willingness to be like, oh, a royal, you can stay with us, and they feed her. They, because you don't necessarily need.
This is some old school Anna Delvey shit. Okay. Yeah.
So they also think you're one of us, or actually you're above us. So they give you things. And that's the thing that scammers do. They pretend they have a lot because people that have more than them, but think that they have more than them, will give them things.
Exactly.
Yes. Place to stay. Because again, if they're like, stay in our home, be our guest for 2 weeks, she's staying there, they're feeding her.
Yep.
And they're probably being like, oh, we'll go out and get you. Because I remember we've had other scammers where people buy them things.
Right. Also. Because they think that they'll inherit a house or some shit.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, I'll buy you a few dresses and
or
like
title, because they might be moneyed, but they don't have the title. Right. So, but in the meantime, now she ran away from a guy who quote unquote bought her. Duval. So he was like, no, I'm getting my money back. So he spent a lot of money on her apparently. So he was looking for her. So during his search for his runaway slave, he heard about a Princess Susanna and figured that it might be Sarah. So
that's smart.
Smarter.
Yeah.
Maybe it heard things about her. And he's like, that sounds a bit familiar. So he circulated advertisements exposing her as an imposter and promised a reward for anyone who captured her. So
okay.
He also sent out one of his cronies, a man by the name of Michael Dalton, to track her down, like basically a slave catcher.
Yeah.
And Dalton tracked her down to a plantation in Charleston. But basically, as soon as Dalton showed up, she had just left because she knew the fix was in. She's like, I got to skedaddle.
I gotta go. I'm so sorry.
Eventually,
the queen needs me to go here. Bye-bye.
I'm going to hike up my skirt and run away. And so eventually Dalton did catch up with her and brought her back at gunpoint to Duval.
Oh, damn.
So Duval was like, get to work and get, girl, get to, well, he probably didn't have that accent at 17, but get to work, girl.
No idea.
So, that the get in the southern drawl hadn't been really codified yet. That didn't happen to the 1800s, but he was basically like, get to work. In the house, and she was a maid in the house probably. So, because she's definitely not out in the plant in the fields. She might be, but I doubt it.
Probably not. Yeah.
So she went back to work and she started planning her escape again.
Of course.
2 years later.
Oh. Okay.
When Duval went to fight as a militia in the War of Independence.
Right.
Sarah's like, see you bitches, I'm out. Peace. So at this, some reports say that around the same time, another woman by the name of Sarah Wilson, because Sarah Wilson is a very common name. It's like a John Doe, I'm sure at this point, appeared. So she kind of traded places with her. And then the name, especially if you go to another part of the, another state even over like just 100 miles away, you can live a completely different life. So she did the switcheroo, but she fled north. Because she's down in South Carolina, and she met and married, some reports say, a man by the name of William Talbot, an officer of the Light Dragoons. Somebody said that they continued to live in America after the war and eventually settled down in the Bowery in New York City. Thereafter, Sarah Wilson disappears from the pages of history, although some sources say that she just settled into a life, and eventually died on February 23rd, 1780 in Berwick, Maine.
Okay.
But like with all scammers, the truth is always obscured. And so any news of like how she died, how she lived out her life should always be received with a heavy dose of doubt. Yeah. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised because, again, she comes from a small village, humble beginning. She really just wanted to be able to marry up, which is something she wouldn't have been able to do in England. She just wouldn't have been able to do, even in that role, because she's not part of the aristocracy. She could only do it in America. Yeah. Yeah. So perhaps if she were able to find a man of some means where they can have their own home, she can have her own house, she may have stopped the scamming. Who knows? Or she may have continued to go on and scam and married somebody else with another name.
I feel like that's what happened. I don't know. But she just had it in her, in her soul.
I feel like, and because it's colonial times is hard and they didn't really care about keeping tabs on women. Right. But because she was able to escape and merge into society, that is why slavery in America turned more exclusively to Africans, enslaved Africans brought in, because it's harder for them to run away and be absorbed into society.
So for our racist listeners out there, what we're saying is they did it for technical reasons, not because there's more worth in what your skin color is. I'm just, who knows? We might have a racist listener at some point. I don't know. Probably not.
And the white, because then they slowly went from like slavery to indentured servitude, and then indentured servitude, because a lot of indentured servants would also run away, the white ones, and they would not be able to get their money back, and the white ones just became more of a hassle. It's just like if the opposite, right? Like if we were in Africa and the Africans had colonized the Europeans, so they were shipping in the Europeans from Europe. The black indigent servants or slave, or they could just leave and go to another country, but the white ones can't. It's easier to track the white ones
because you can track them down. It's exactly it. It's like like people put, like, well, slavery has always been part of humanity. No, we were fucking assholes, and we took a shitty thing and made it ever so shittier. And let's just call it what it is.
Well, in the modern world, they made it. Slavery existed throughout the history of the world, but a slave used to be able to either buy their freedom, or the servitude, the slave moniker was not passed down to their children automatically. If anything, like we think about like the ancient world, right? Like,
it actively wasn't. Yeah. And okay, I'm gonna get biblical on y'all, because all these slave owners were like very Christian. Okay, went to church, justified all their sins. I'll say it. In the Bible, they talk about slavery. I actually remember learning this as a kid, right? That here is how you have slaves. Here are the rules. And it was, you could only have them for 7 years. Part of your land, like the corners, the owner couldn't use the corners. The corners were for the slaves. They could put whatever they wanted in there. Like, I don't know why this stuck with me, but like this is in the Bible. And after 7 years, you are free. Right?
That's what indentured servitude is here.
And it's indentured servitude, right? But essentially, you have to treat them nicely. You have to treat them humanely. You take care of them when they're sick. Like, there are all these things. So, like, don't come at me with like, well, we already did this. Like, no, this shit's different.
It's different. And that's what chattel slavery became. And so, but this is one of the reasons why they were like, oh, these white people are a hassle, because Sarah was like, I'm out, bitch, as soon as I get a chance.
Sarah's like, I'm a hassle. Okay.
She became a queen. The audacity. I mean, listen, I love an audacious woman. She was like, I'm not just like some lady. I'm a queen. I'm the queen. I'm a princess.
Literally the queen's sister. Like, we share the same blood, and I'm the fruest of fru. But then we got like in a fight. So I was like, you know what? Let me go to America for a little bit. Yeah. And then I'm going to stay in America. And then, like when I feel like it, I'll go back to being royalty. But like for right now, can you pass the peas? I'm still a little hungry. Thank you.
But you know what I love? And this is straight out of like an Agatha Christie mystery where the murderer or the scammer or whatever doesn't realize they've made a mistake until later, and then they have to kill somebody to cover it up. But the fact that it never occurred to her that they would expect her to speak German.
I know, right? German. I speak in the German. What?
Not I speak of the German. This is funny. But yeah, I just thought that was so much fun, because it sounds like she didn't really harm anybody. I mean, she stole from the queen, but I just love that the queen could figure out like, wait a minute, where's my ring?
I love that Queen Charlotte, with all of her stuff, went, I'm missing a ring and a photograph. Get it? Like, I love that. And then she was like,
and a dress.
And a dress. Okay. Oh, no, not one of my millions of dresses. Yeah. And then it was like, burn her, right? Like, she gonna die. That was my dress. And there was, you know what I'm saying? Like, like she plays with fire, and she did not stop playing with fire. She didn't stop. Like, juggling them fireballs. Okay.
I hope that there's somebody here in America that did their Ancestry.com and found that Sarah's related to them and found out what she did. Honestly, if this was my ancestor, I'd be very proud. Because she's like,
I'd be like, yes.
I'm too fabulous to be poor. Okay.
I'm not poor. Even though I have no money, I'm not poor. Like,
I'm not poor.
I don't have resources. I don't have anything. But no, I'm not
Again,
poor. I reject that.
I think we're going to name this episode as All a Bad Bitch Needed Is Money.
All a bad bitch needed is money. Yes.
I love it. So that is Sarah Wilson. That's our, it seems like this is going to be a short episode for July 4th.
It's July 4th, y'all. Go.
Hopefully you guys have some hamburgers, hot dogs, ribs, baked beans.
Fight the patriarchy and enjoy the fireworks, you know?
Yeah, because this was a fun one, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I love these ladies. Like, it's just sort of like, and I love that it's set in colonial times because unfortunately we don't have a lot of information about them, but you know.
But they're fun. Listen.
You had a hero and I had a scammer.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because this is very Lavetta and Miriam, okay?
Honestly, Sybil, all a bad bitch needed is money because Sybil was a bad bitch. She was a bad bitch. She just needed her money.
She's just like, give me my money. And they were like, well, were you married?
50 years
and
ago.
she's like, y'all, I was married. What do you think? Idiots.
Yeah, but on that note, all right, guys, that wraps it up for another episode of Notorious Women Podcast. Guys, remember to give us a 5-star review in the Apple Store. And remember to follow us on all the things. Download. And also, we haven't said this in a while. Tell your friends and your family about us and then copy the link to the podcast and send it to them. Don't tell them about it. Just tell them about it. Tell them about it and then be like, I'm going to send you the link. Send them the link so they can just tap it, download, follow the show, and spread the word. Also, you can leave us some moolah, some, because we bad bitches. All we need is some money.
All we need is some money. Okay.
You can do that at patreon.com/notoriouswomen. That's patreon.com/notoriouswomen. And Miriam, how else can they find and support the show?
You can find us on the Instagram. Okay. We're there. Notorious Women Podcast. Really easy to find. Same with TikTok. Same with YouTube, where you can listen to some episodes if you want to. And you can email us at notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. But you can also DM us on Instagram because we check that. That is that.
All right, guys. Remember, all a bad bitch need is what?
Money.
All right, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.